The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Avraham Eisenberg, the crypto investor whose, quote, highly profitable trading strategy drained DeFi trading platform Mango Markets out of $110 million worth of crypto, was arrested Monday in Puerto Rico, court documents reveal. Here with more on the story is CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick. Tell us what's the latest, what's happening in Puerto Rico?
Good morning. Yeah, so yesterday, federal agents moved to unseal a document basically saying, yeah, Eisenberg was arrested on Monday night. A deposition signed by an FBI agent went into further detail. Eisenberg is accused of commodities fraud and commodities manipulation, specifically for allegedly manipulating the futures contracts, perpetual futures contracts on Mango Markets. So not, any specific cryptocurrency. He is accused of manipulating that, but the charges are tied to futures contracts on Mango Markets. These accusations, if he is proven guilty in the court of law, do carry the potential for prison time as well as fines. So, fairly serious charges. And interestingly enough, the deposition quoted Eisenberg's own Twitter account in explaining how the FBI tracked down his alleged role in this particular crime.
Yeah, we have a deposition signed by an FBI special agent that states in part, quote, Eisenberg engaged in a scheme involving the intentional and artificial manipulation of the price of perpetual futures contracts on a cryptocurrency exchange called Mango Markets and other manipulative and deceptive devices and contrivances. And what I found interesting about this case is that they were calling Mango token, MNGO, the native token of Mango Markets, a commodity rather than a security. So does that give further insight into what cryptocurrencies are commodities versus securities?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think this is just a case of they saw that there was a futures contract tied to it and said, okay, well, for at least in the US, securities can't have futures. So it should be a commodity under, how they're interpreting it. But we haven't heard from any of the agencies that actually have to, kind of make these decisions. So the SEC and the CFTC have not weighed in yet, or at least not that I've seen. And, I wouldn't read too much into this for now. If a judge comes out later and says, okay, well, I think, MNGO is for sure a commodity and I'm going to rule as such. I'm not sure how that would happen in this case, to be honest, but that would be the point where we'd start saying, okay, well, maybe we got to, look at how we're interpreting this more closely. But, for now, I think it's just a case of there are futures contracts involved. And so that, natural charges were commodities related.
The thing that strikes me in this whole thing is that this is an unregulated market. Right. And not only that, but Avi Eisenberg was just sort of like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I did this thing to show you just how lame this is. Yeah, it was me. So what? I mean, this is what it is. Here's your money back. Leave me alone. This is just a mess. This was a kind of like a goofy, like unregulated, who even regulated this thing? I don't know. It's not the SEC. It's not the CFTC. It's like a bunch of computer numbers. Mango Markets, their token, somebody's claiming it's a commodity. It could be a security. We don't know. We're not like, how is there even a case here?
Yeah, I mean, this is where things are going to start getting, I think, really interesting. So I think the big thing is crypto isn't really unregulated. Like that's been the frequent complaint, but it's more a case of, people in the crypto industry don't really want the traditional financial rules to apply to some of these novel products, or don't think that they can apply to some of these novel financial products. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got, SEC Chair Gary Gensler, who's repeatedly said existing rules absolutely apply to crypto exchanges, and he believes that all the authority he needs already exists. So he's not saying there needs to be a new law that further, explicitly says, yeah, only, certain types of exchanges fall under SEC jurisdiction or, whatever.
But these weren't dollars.
Right,
there weren't dollars involved.
No, but
Right.
you know, he's a U.S. person, you know, in Puerto Rico, doing something that affects other U.S. persons using this thing. So I think that's probably where the jurisdiction question comes from.
The actual exchange can't use U.S. dollars, right? Because that's how DeFi can't actually USD. It would be USDT or USDC or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, USDC. So part of the complaint actually went into that. They said that, yeah, like they used USDC issued by Circle. So that was actually a huge part of the complaint as well, where they said, all right, well, this is a stablecoin tied to the U.S. dollar issued by an American company on, you know, using or by someone who allegedly committed this from, you know, U.S. territory and affecting U.S. persons. So as far as the kind of jurisdictions questions go, a lot of it kind of comes down to who is affected and who is involved. So the fact that I think, you know, a lot of U.S. people are involved in this in terms of, you know, a U.S. person being either a U.S. citizen or someone in the U.S., yeah, that probably gave the, you know, federal officials the jurisdiction they needed. And looking at the CFTC and how they approach it, you know, CFTC Chair Rustin Benham's frequent complaint actually has been that they can pursue fraud charges, they just can't do spot market oversight. So in this case, because there is alleged fraud, it kind of does fit into the bucket they've defined for themselves.
I think part of my frustration with this whole thing is that it's this myth that stablecoins are U.S. dollars, right? They're U.S. dollars only to the point that people have faith that they're actually backed one-to-one to the U.S. dollar. I know of a big one out there that people have faith is tied to the U.S. dollar. Whether it actually is or not is like entirely, but who cares? I mean, these are like Pokemon cards. Let's face it. I mean, like these aren't actual. This isn't money, and unless all of a sudden the U.S. government recognizes cryptocurrency as legal tender, I'm still trying to
people
grapple.
Recognize it as a currency.
That's great.
Regime, but
so my kid recognizes Pokemon cards as money. All right. So if my kid is like trading Pokemon, one set of Pokemon cards for another set of Pokemon cards. Like, you know, that's just Pokemon. Like if he manipulates the Pokemon card price, he's just manipulating the price of Pokemon cards. It's not actually but it's not even against U.S. dollars.
And I'm sure, I think from Avraham Eisenberg's point of view, he was also abiding by what the code allowed, and code is law. And so he doesn't feel that anything has been violated here. Do we understand what kind of, well, you mentioned some of the charges, fraud. What about the sentencing and what's next?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're going to have to wait and see what the first hearing looks like. He was arrested in Puerto Rico, but the case was filed in New York. So it's unclear to me whether or not they're going to fly him up to New York and hold a hearing in New York, or if they'll allow him to remote in, or, you know, what exactly is going to happen. But, I mean, you know, the sentence.
You know how many years the charges carry?
For the commodities fraud charge, I think the max is about 25 years in prison, which is a fairly long time. The fact that he did return, like he returned, you know, some amount of it, or negotiated a return of, I think it was like 67 million out of the 110 million he took. So, you know, whether or not that's a factor remains to be seen. Whether or not the fact that he, you know, clearly talked about this on Twitter, and you know, as you said, Christine, he said he doesn't believe he committed any crimes. He, you know, tweeted that multiple times, and even dared people to arrest him in the weeks after the exploit happened. So it's going to be a really interesting case.